Artificial intelligence, AI. It's a term that's on everyone's mind and often comes up in everyday conversation. But what exactly is it, and how does it work? Artificial intelligence is everywhere, from ordering a cup of coffee at your favorite bistro to utilizing life-saving algorithms in the back of an ambulance on the way to the ER. This is where Eclipse comes into play, taking AI out of the abstract and putting it into everyday action. Eclipse is the engine that powers our imaging software, adding value and delivering measurable results in image quality, efficiency, and productivity, all thanks to AI. But how do we do that in the real world? How do we put AI to work? Let's start with imaging intelligence, which leverages AI and proprietary algorithms, delivering superb image quality and unrivaled diagnostic confidence. Next, workflow intelligence that revolutionizes healthcare. AI automates manual tasks, streamlines workflow, and supercharges productivity, leading to a higher level of patient care. And finally, analytics intelligence that delivers a digital dashboard, a consolidated way to view all performance metrics, to review and analyze results, and develop critical improvement plans. So the next time you use an app to order a cappuccino, think about how AI made that drink possible. Think about the AI behind the drink. And know the power of Eclipse with AI is doing the same, working behind the scenes on every image it manages to improve image quality, efficiency, and productivity. Eclipse with AI. That's intelligence in action.
Hi, I'm Ron Muskowski. Using AI in radiology imaging is not entirely new. Carestream has been incorporating AI in our image processing for years. As you saw in the video, our software powered by Eclipse uses artificial intelligence and plays a key role in our image processing and workflow efficiency features. We refer to this as intelligence in action, as our software uses proprietary algorithms as well as AI that delivers actionable, measurable results to provide a higher standard of care. Today, we will explore how AI and other algorithms are used in our image processing features to provide incredible images to help enhance diagnosis and improve treatment planning. We'll specifically focus on how our latest AI capability, Smart Noise Cancellation, can help improve image quality, reduce dose, and work in conjunction with our other image processing capabilities to provide a better standard of care. Eclipse is the engine behind our innovative image processing software. At its heart, Eclipse uses proprietary algorithms to provide automated and robust image processing that delivers superb image quality and consistent presentation. Eclipse is the foundation that enables numerous image processing features and options. Dual energy, digital tomosynthesis, and smart noise cancellation are our latest offerings available for the DRX Evolution Plus. I'll now turn it over to Lori to cover our EVP Plus processing.
Thanks, Ron. EVP Plus has utilized AI techniques since its inception, and this graphic highlights components within EVP Plus which use AI technology. EVP stands for Enhanced Visualization Processing. Detector linear data is gain and offset corrected and then converted to 12-bit log exposure. It is analyzed for high-frequency grid lines, and an expert system is employed to analyze frequency spectra for both detecting and suppressing the grid. Segmentation and analysis has many purposes in EVP+. One stage involves utilization of a support vector machine to automatically orient chest images head up to improve technologist workflow. Another function within segmentation and analysis performs edge classification coupled with an expert system to identify pixels in the image that correspond to collimator blades. A black mask is created and applied to the collimated regions to reduce viewing flare. Rendering is a multi-stage process of predicting image processing parameters from the segmented results, constructing a tonal curve, breaking the image into frequency bands, adjusting the gains on the bands according to the predicted parameters, recombining the bands, and then applying the tonal curve. Parameter prediction takes image features and calculates the parameters based on the supervised learning method of linear regression. Next, my colleague is going to highlight the advanced visualization capabilities in Eclipse.
Thank you, Lori. In addition to our outstanding EVP Plus processing, Carestream also offers processing algorithms for advanced visualization. These advanced visualizations, also known as companion views, are images processed for a specific interpretation task. The algorithms use sophisticated image analysis, multi-frequency enhancements, and grayscale transformations to accentuate features of interest, such as edges, lines, and fine textures. Tube and line enhancement is an example of an advanced visualization designed to help in locating tube and line tips. Here, the image processing is tuned to highlight linear features and improve visibility in underpenetrated regions. The resulting image improves the conspicuity of such devices such as feeding tubes, endotracheal tubes, and central catheters. In the image on the right, the central line tip can easily be seen positioned in the superior vena cava. Here's an example of advanced visualization designed to enhance the appearance of a pneumothorax or a collapsed lung. When a pneumothorax is present, edge sharpening helps to accentuate the outline of the visceral pleura, and texture enhancement helps to distinguish the lung markings or lack thereof in the case of a pneumothorax. The enhanced image on the right clearly shows a lack of vascular markings in the upper left lobe. Bone suppression advanced visualization uses a powerful form of machine learning called a random forest to suppress high contrast bone structures that overlap the lung region. This is all done while maintaining the same level of contrast detail as in the original image. This view is intended to help the clinician find and interpret soft tissue abnormalities associated with lung disease. In the example shown here, there is a large CT-confirmed abnormality behind the right clavicle and top rib. As shown in the image on the right, the shape and size of the abnormality is much easier to see after bone suppression. So now let's discuss our latest image processing technology that is based on AI technology, deep convolutional neural networks. Best practices in radiology employ the principle of ALARA for patient dose management. As a consequence to this practice, images tend to contain noise, and that has an impact on image quality. Smart noise cancellation, or SNC for short, is a state-of-the-art image processing technology that helps to support the principle of ALARA while removing noise from radiographic images. SNC is a deep learning convolutional neural network that is trained to predict the noise in a radiographic image. The predicted noise is subtracted from the image to generate a noise-reduced image. Successful model development is enabled by our patented ability to inject realistic noise patterns into the clinical images from our database. This capability allows us to create the huge training data sets that are necessary for deep learning model development. Here's an example of SNC applied to an image of a neonatal patient. On the left is the original capture. In the middle is the noise predicted by the deep learning model. And on the right is the noise reduced image. This is the same example from the previous slide, but shown at a higher resolution to better appreciate the differences between the images. The technique settings used to acquire the exam are displayed on the top right. Here's an example of a pediatric arm. You can see from the image on the bottom how the soft tissue is cleaned up and the improved appearance of the cortical bone after SNC processing. Here's another example of SNC, this time applied to long length acquisition. The noise is cleaned up significantly. Here's an example of a lateral nasal bone acquired at very low exposure. You can see on the right how the overlapping bony structures are clearly delineated after SNC has been applied. Here's a cropped section of an AP lumbar spine exam acquired with an anti-scatter grid. Again, SNC cleans up the noise nicely, but also notice how well sharpness is preserved in the wire mesh of the venous stent. Smart noise cancellation is a tool that stands alone well on its own. However, its real strength is how it can be combined with other image processing features. For example, by combining SNT with our smart grid option, we can raise the bar on image quality. This is an example of a pelvis exam acquired without an anti-scatter grid. The lack of contrast seen in the left image is caused by the X-ray scatter, which makes the image detailed and adds a significant amount of noise. On the right is the same acquisition, but the image was processed with smart grid and SNC. As you can see, the contrast is greatly enhanced. These magnified sections show the left femoral head. This increase in resolution better depicts how smart grid brings out the bony detail, while SNC keeps the noise in check. Here's an example of an exam acquired without an anti-scatter grid. Again, as shown in the image on the right, the image processed with smart grid and SNC greatly improves overall contrast. Magnification into the upper left lung shows the significant increase in the subject contrast of the bone, cardiac, and lung tissue, all without enhancing the noise. Here's an example of a contrast study of an obese patient acquired with an anti-scatter grid with smart grid applied to clean up scatter, which escaped the grid. Again, as shown in the image on the right, the image processed with smart grid and SNC greatly improves overall contrast, and the looping of the bowel is more easily observed. Magnification into the lower left abdomen shows the significant increase in subject contrast of the barium stained small bowel, all without enhancing noise. Now I'll turn control back to Lori, who will talk about a reader study showing the benefits of SNC.
Thank you for that overview of SNC and the advanced visualization capabilities of Eclipse. Now I will share the results of two reader studies, an isodose study and a reduced dose study. The benefits of noise reduction can be realized as an image quality improvement and/or a dose reduction. So we're going to talk about the clinical evaluation of SNC, where both benefits are explored. Two independent reader studies were performed. The first assessing the image quality impact of noise reduction, where the same image was processed with and without SNC. This is also referred to as the isodose study. Then I'll give you an overview of our reduced dose study. So the greatest risk of denoising medical images is the possibility of inadvertently removing important information. The assessment of this risk can be accomplished by performing a controlled reader study that forces careful before and after pairwise evaluation of image quality based on expert human observers with suitable domain knowledge. The isodose study had two objectives. The first was to demonstrate that images processed with SNC have a quality level that is equivalent or better than images processed with EVP Plus alone. Preference was measured using a relative 5-point scale, and diagnostic quality was measured using a 4-point absolute scale. The second objective was to demonstrate that SNC produces safe and effective images. 2 U.S. board-certified radiologists with the specialty of diagnostic radiology evaluated 67 pairs of human clinical and cadaveric subjects captured on 5 different detector types, both GOS and cesium panels from the DRX1 and the DRX Plus family of detectors. Various exams, patient size, and exposure levels were used in the study. Each detector type has a unique neural network. The image pairs consisted of an image processed with default EVP plus processing, which includes traditional noise suppression that is standard with the EVP plus processing, and the image processed with smart noise cancellation with the EVP plus processing modified, so that the noise suppression was disabled and the sharpness was tuned to be consistent with the sharpness appearance of the default processing. Images were randomly placed left or right and were presented in a random fashion in work list for the readers, with the treatment conditions blinded to them, and each radiologist had a different work list order. The readers were encouraged to pan and zoom and adjust window width and window level to fully explore and compare the images. The readers first rated the pair for preference using a 5-point relative scale tied to diagnostic confidence. A negative rating indicated that the image on the left was preferred, and a positive rating indicated that the right image was preferred. The magnitude of the number, 1 or 2, indicated the preference level. Readers were instructed to use the preference scale such that slightly preferred or 1 ratings would most likely not impact diagnosis or diagnostic confidence, and strongly preferred or 2 would likely impact the diagnosis. Analysis of the ratings utilized plus or minus 0.5 as a difference that matters. Next, the readers rated the left, then the right image for overall diagnostic quality based upon the RADLEX scale shown. A difference that matters in diagnostic quality is 0.5, and the safety and effectiveness threshold is a diagnostic quality rating greater than 2. Comments were also recorded. After the ratings were completed, ratings were decoded such that positive values indicate favor for smart noise cancellation. For example, if the pair being rated has the SNC image on the left and the EVP plus image on the right, and the rating is a -2, indicating that the preference is for the left image. Upon decoding, this case will have a preference rating of +2. The distribution of IEC exposure indices in the study ranged from 75 to greater than 225, corresponding to ISO speed classes of 1000 to 200 speed. The IEC exposure index corresponds to the exposure that the detector received. Note the inverse relationship between the IEC exposure index and ISO speed. As exposure is halved, the IEC exposure index is also halved, whereas the ISO speed is doubled. Most exams had IEC exposure indices ranging from 100 to 200, which would correspond to approximately 600 to 400 speed. The mean preference of 1.3, positive, indicating favor for SNC, is much greater than the difference that matters, 0.5, indicating clear preference for the smart noise cancellation processing. The mean diagnostic quality rating for SNC is 3.6 and is significantly higher than the diagnostic quality of EVP plus processing alone. And the median SNC diagnostic quality rating was 4, indicating a diagnostic quality of exemplary. The non-overlapping confidence intervals of the diagnostic quality ratings implies that SNC images are significantly higher in quality than the EVP plus images. The distribution of preference ratings indicates that greater than 89% of all preference ratings showed slight to strong preference for SNC. From the distribution of diagnostic quality RADLEX ratings, there were no instances of images rated non-diagnostic in the study, and most of the EVP plus only responses were diagnostic, whereas most of the SNC images were rated exemplary. None of the SNC images were rated lower than diagnostic. The contingency table is a handy way of comparing raw diagnostic quality RADLEX image ratings of the EVP plus processing versus the SNC processing. From this table, We can see, as indicated by all zeros above the shaded diagonal, there were 0 instances of EVP Plus processing alone being rated higher than EVP Plus with SNC. There were 12 instances of images processed with EVP Plus being rated limited, but with SNC applied were rated diagnostic. And similarly, there were 4 instances of images processed with EVP Plus being rated limited, but with SNC applied were rated exemplary. And there were 70 instances of images processed with EVP Plus being rated diagnostic, but with SNC applied were rated exemplary. These increases in diagnostic quality provide strong evidence that EVP Plus with SNC is superior. This chart illustrates preference ratings by detector type and reader. The red center line represents the average preference of the radiologists, and their mean preference response is similar. All mean preference responses are above 1.0, favoring smart noise cancellation. Readers, detector types, and exposure speed were not significant sources of variability in the study. These are the inferential results of the ISODOSE study. The paired t-test was used to evaluate if the difference in RADLEX ratings was greater than the difference that matters, that is greater than 0.5. The results demonstrate that the mean RADLEX difference is greater than 0.5. Therefore, we conclude at the 95% confidence level that the smart noise cancellation processing yields RADLEX ratings significantly higher than EVP Plus processing alone. The one sample t-test was used to determine if the mean preference ratings were in favor of SNC processing at a level that matters, that is greater than 0.5. This test demonstrates that the mean preference rating is greater than 0.5, and we conclude at the 95% confidence level that the SNC processing is substantially more preferred over the EVP Plus processing alone. I'm going to go back. I left out a few parts there. Let me continue. The one sample t-test was also used to test safety and effectiveness, and testing if the mean SNC RADLEX rating is greater than 2, which is limited. At the 95% confidence level, SNC processing is safe and effective with a mean rating of 3.56. Equivalence inferential testing was part of the statistical analysis plan of the study. However, due to the clear signal that SNC is both strongly preferred and is significantly greater in diagnostic quality than EVP Plus alone, equivalence testing was deemed to be irrelevant. The comments of the radiologist are shown in different colors, and bold comments are from cases where EVP Plus images were rated a 2 and the SNC image brought that image up to a level of 4, which is exemplary. And a common theme emerged from their statements: SNC processing provides better clarity. From this first study, we conclude that smart noise cancellation is clearly preferred over EVP Plus processing alone. It produces images with higher diagnostic quality. It is effective over a wide range of exposures and detector types, and it removes noise without impacting high frequency detail, something that traditional noise suppression techniques have failed to achieve. So next, we're going to investigate the image quality impact of dose reduction with SNC. The primary objective of the reduced dose study was to demonstrate that reduced dose images processed with SNC deliver radiographic image quality that is as good as or better than corresponding images acquired at nominal dose processed with EVP Plus. A secondary objective was to evaluate reduced dose image quality as it relates to detector type, image type, and exposure level. This design is very similar to the ISODOSE study. 3 U.S. board certified radiologists with the specialty of diagnostic radiology evaluated 60 pairs of human clinical and cadaveric subjects captured on 5 detector types, GOS and cesium panels from the DRX1 and DRX Plus family of detectors. Various exams and patient sizes were used in the study. And of course, each detector type has its own unique neural network. 2 types of reduced dose images were included in the study. Independent cadaver acquisitions across across a range of dose reductions were used for the Plus family of detectors. Clinical reduced dose images were simulated at prescribed dose reduction levels, which were dependent on scintillator type for all detector types. Noise simulation was used because of the obvious desire to minimize double exposing of subjects. The same noise simulation methodology successfully used to develop the SNC algorithm was employed on a random assortment of clinical images collected under trade trial agreement. Image type was a factor in the study to determine if these different types of low-dose images were significant sources of variability. Each image pair consisted of a nominally exposed processed image or image processed with EVP+, which included traditional noise suppression that is standard with EVP+, and then the reduced dose image processed with SNC with EVP+ applied, such that the noise suppression was disabled and the sharpness was tuned to be consistent with the sharp disappearance of the default processing. Images were randomly placed left or right and were presented in a random order work list with the treatment conditions blinded to the reader. Each radiologist had a different work list order, and they were encouraged to pan and zoom and adjust the window level and window width, just like they had in the previous study. So the readers first rated the pair for preference using a 5-point relative scale tied to diagnostic confidence. Negative rating indicated that the image on the left was preferred, and a positive rating indicated that the right image was preferred. And the magnitude of the number, 1 or 2, indicated the preference level. And just like the last study, a 1 indicated slight preference, and it would not impact diagnostic confidence, and a 2 was considered strongly preferred, and it would likely impact diagnosis. An analysis of the ratings utilized plus or minus 0.5 as a difference that matters. Next, the reader rated the left and then the right for overall diagnostic quality based on the RADLEX scale shown. Difference that matters is, again, is 0.5. And the safety and effectiveness threshold is a diagnostic quality rating greater than 2.0. After the ratings were completed, ratings were decoded in the same fashion as before. This histogram shows nominal exposure indices, which are shown on the left, and it demonstrates a bimodal distribution, which is consistent with the 2 types of scintillators associated with the panels used in the study, gadolinium oxysulfide and cesium iodide. The right histogram of low-dose exposure indices follows the same relationship as expected. From the descriptive statistics of the data, the mean preference of 0.67, positive indicating favor for reduced dose with SNC, is greater than the difference that matters, 0.5, indicating preference for reduced dose images with smart noise cancellation processing. The difference in preference ratings between the image types, cadavers versus clinicals with simulated noise, is not significant. The mean diagnostic quality rating for reduced dose images with SNC is 3.54, and is higher than the diagnostic quality of nominal dose images processed with EVP+. Differences in RADLEX ratings between the image types is not significant. The median diagnostic quality rating for reduced dose images with SNC was 4, indicating diagnostic quality of exemplary. The non-overlapping confidence intervals of the diagnostic quality ratings indicates that the reduced dose SNC images are significantly higher in quality than the nominal dose with EVP+ only. 93% of the preference ratings reflected no preference or preference in favor of the reduced dose images with SNC processing, and 60% of the preference ratings were slightly or strongly in favor of the reduced dose images with SNC, suggesting overall preference for the reduced dose images with SNC. Preference ratings by image type suggest that the preference response is similar between cadaver type images and clinical images with simulated noise added. Here we observe that there were no instances of images rated non-diagnostic. Greater than 90% of the reduced dose with SNC images were rated diagnostic or higher, and greater than 54% were rated exemplary. Also, most of the nominal dose images were rated diagnostic, whereas most of the reduced dose images were rated exemplary. Finally, when the distributions are examined by image type, similar trends are demonstrated. From this chart, we observe that radiologists respond consistently regardless of image type, and on average, the reduced dose images with smart noise cancellation are consistently rated higher in diagnostic quality. These are plots of mean preference as a function of the major factors of the study. Top left illustrates that reader variability is a significant source of variation due to reader A's confidence interval not overlapping the other confidence intervals, and that all readers preferred SNC on reduced dose images over the nominal images processed with EVP Plus alone due to the positive preference means. The remaining plots illustrate that image type, detector, and the percentage of dose reduction are not significant factors. Due to the small number of samples at the 60% dose reduction level, our dose reduction conclusions are restricted to levels less than 55%. This contingency table enables comparison of raw RADLEX ratings. Here we observe that for 178 out of 180 paired ratings, which is 99% of the ratings, the reduced dose images with smart noise cancellation were rated the same or higher than the nominal dose images processed with EVP Plus. And 54 out of 180, or 30% of the paired ratings, were instances of the reduced dose images with smart noise cancellation being rated higher than the nominal dose images with EVP Plus alone. This data suggests that the reduced dose images with SNC are superior. The paired t-test was used to evaluate the difference in RADLEX ratings and testing if the difference is greater than 0. The result demonstrates that the mean RADLEX difference is greater than 0. Therefore, we conclude at the 95% confidence level that the SNC processing on reduced dose images yields RADLEX ratings greater than 0. While the difference may not be clinically impactful, the SNC processing on reduced dose images produces images with diagnostic superiority over the nominal images with EVP Plus alone. The one sample t-test was used to determine if the mean preference ratings were in favor of SNC processing at a level that matters, greater than 0.5. This test demonstrates that the mean preference rating is greater than 0.5, and we conclude at the 95% confidence level that the SNC processing on reduced dose images is substantially more preferred over nominal dose images with EVP Plus processing alone. The one sample t-test was used to test safety and effectiveness of the SNC processing on reduced dose images, testing if the mean reduced dose SNC RADLEX rating is greater than 2.0, limited. And at the 95% confidence level, SNC processing is safe and effective with the mean rating of 3.53. Equivalence inferential testing was performed on both preference ratings and paired RADLEX ratings, testing the ratings within the interval of -0.5 to +0.5. Equivalence was not demonstrated for the preference rating, and this is not unexpected since the mean preference of 0.67 is greater than the upper confidence bound. Equivalence testing using pairwise RADLEX ratings resulted in equivalence being demonstrated at a p-value of 0.00 for both ends of the equivalence interval. And it is reasonable to state that the low dose images with SNC yields image quality that is as good as or better than nominally exposed images with EVP Plus alone. So the conclusions of the reduced dose study are that reduced dose images processed with SNC are clearly preferred over the nominal dose images processed with EVP Plus alone. The diagnostic quality of reduced dose images with SNC are as good as or better than nominal dose images processed with EVP Plus alone. And SNC on reduced dose images is effective across a wide range of exposure reductions and exam types, and is equally effective across all detector types. Finally, cesium acquisitions at up to 800 speed, reduced from 400 speed, demonstrate superior image quality with SNC, and likewise for GOS acquisitions at up to 500 speed, reduced from 320 speed. I'm going to share some examples from low-dose study with you. This is a low-dose pair on a plus GOS detector. The 200 speed exposure is on the left, and the 400 speed exposure is on the right. Notice the improved visualization of trabecular patterns and overlapping bone structures on the right. This is another example of a low-dose pair from the study. The elbow on the left is 400 speed cesium, and the image on the right is 800 speed. Notice the improved visualization of the trabecular patterns and the overlapping bone structures in the right image, which is the reduced exposure image processed with SNC. Now I'm going to hand it back over to Ron to wrap up.
Thank you, Lori. Smart cancellation has a number of benefits. First, it enables one to lower radiation dose without loss in image quality. This is especially important in neonatal and pediatric imaging, where imaging at the lowest possible dose is critical. SNC also provides improved diagnostic quality, preservation of fine detail, and better contrast to noise ratio for images acquired at clinically nominal exposures. Our reader studies have shown that reduced dose images processed with smart noise cancellation are clearly preferred when compared to nominal dose images processed with EVP Plus alone. Smart noise cancellation also allows the adjustment for the amount of noise cancellation and exposure to meet the desired image quality. A site can gradually increase the amount of noise cancellation and/or decrease exposure as required. Smart noise cancellation does not change the current workflow. It automatically applies after an image has been acquired. And it can also help alleviate physician fatigue with easier to read radiographs. And lastly, smart noise cancellation promises benefits in gridless and gridded imaging when combined with our smart grid option, where the removal of scatter typically leads to an increase in noise appearance. For additional detail, we will be sending you a white paper that goes into more depth on the algorithm, objective and subjective performance, and clinical evaluation results. Also, as we have shown, our software powered by Eclipse uses AI to provide intelligence in action. Thank you for your attention, and we will now open up the session for questions and answers.
I'd like to go ahead and welcome back Ron and Levon. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and thank you for excellent presentation. Ron, I just want to remind you that you're on mute right now currently. And at this point, I'd like to encourage everyone to type in any questions that you have in the Q&A section on your toolbar. Ron, I just want to go ahead and get into it. We have questions that have already come in for you. First of all, welcome.
Thank you.
So the first question I have that I'm going to pose towards you and Levon, if you have any insights into any of these questions, please feel free to jump in. We have a couple that are addressed to you directly. But first question is, what products is SNC available for?
So today, SNC is available on our DRX Evolution and Evolution Plus DR room systems. So we are looking to expand it to other products in the future releases, but today it is on our DRX Evolution and Evolution Plus products.
Perfect. And Levon, I wanted to ask you specifically, can SNC be added to an existing system? Is any additional hardware needed?
No, thanks, Walt. No, no additional hardware would be needed. It can, correct me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah, let me take that one for a second.
Yeah.
So smart noise cancellation requires the use of a GPU. So depending upon the computer that's in the system today, some customers may have the appropriate hardware. Others may require an update of the computer because it does require a GPU for the AI type processing.
Perfect. And I wanted to go ahead and ask another quick question to you guys from came in. Is this feature available for all body parts and views?
It is. It's actually available for all general radiology, body parts, views, and projections, and also supports long length imaging views as well.
Perfect. And then I wanted to go ahead and ask a question. The software, sorry, you mentioned breast tomography. Can you speak to that?
Not breast tomography, no. So it applies as far as SNC. Currently, it applies to general radiography images and also long length imaging images.
Perfect.
Now we do offer a digital tomosynthesis feature, but that's different than breast tomosynthesis.
Got it. Got it. I just wanted to clarify that. Another question that came in: does SNC work with both physical and virtual grids?
It does. We offer a virtual grid. We also offer physical grids with our systems as well. It works for both. Yes, that's correct.
Fantastic. And does the user have the ability to adjust the amount of noise cancellation?
They do. We have adjustments that are configurable. So typically our application consultants, when they come in and train the customer on the system and install and configure it, they'll be able to work with the physicians and the site to identify what amount of noise cancellation should be applied, as well as exposure as well. Because there are two benefits to smart noise cancellation. One is being able to improve the image quality by reducing the amount of noise. And the second is to be able to the opportunity to reduce the dose by adjusting the exposure. But both of those are fully configurable. That's done at time of installation.
And that can go from all the way from no noise suppression to 100%, what our algorithm allows, right?
Correct.
Fantastic. And is there any change to current workflow to use this feature?
There's not. It's fully transparent from a workflow perspective. So the radiographer, the way they acquire images today, they'll first see a preview image, which is a low resolution of image that was acquired that displays right away. And then shortly after, the full resolution image gets displayed. So the only difference is that the smart noise cancellation does take another second or two to process, but from a workflow perspective, it's identical.
And what detectors are supported?
Can you repeat the question? You broke up a bit.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. So what detectors are supported in the SNC?
Yeah, so we have our DRX1, our DRX Plus, and our Lux family of detectors. So those are our typically, they're the detectors that are used on our room systems that the feature is offered on. But those three families of detectors are supported by smart noise cancellation.
And another question that came through is, does SNC change the file size of image stored to packs?
I can take that one, Ron. Actually, one of the benefits of SNC is the file storage on packs will be smaller than using our traditional algorithm. And that's just the way we've removed more entropy from the noise, which allows us to do more compression of the files.
Another question that came in as a follow-up to a previous question was, can the noise cancellation be adapted while reading?
It does not. So as part of our FDA submission, I mean, you have to basically have a fixed algorithm at the time. So we do all of our testing and so on with the algorithm at a specific state. And then if we make any changes to it, we would have to go through the same release process. So it's not adaptive at this time. I don't know if that's going to change in the future, but right now, just because the regulations that we're under, it is not adaptive.
Perfect.
But just to be clear, I mean, the algorithms are trained, so that way, no matter what types of body parts or projections and so on, it certainly does work for all those different types of images.
And this actually can go to both of you. What advantage does SNC have over traditional noise suppression techniques?
Want to take that?
Yeah, sure. Well, usually traditional noise suppression techniques, they remove the noise by some type of smoothing operation, which also degrades the high frequency anatomical details in the image. This particular algorithm is trained to subtract noise directly from the image without affecting the anatomy landscape that it's embedded on.
Great. And a question that just came in is actually, what is the size of the CNN networks in terms of dimensionality of the number of weights?
We've gotten this down to about 1 million parameters that were trained. And this gives us a benefit. Once the file size of the weights is smaller, and also it allows us to do faster inference times on our products.
Perfect. And we have first of all, I wanted to remind everybody that this presentation brought to you by Carestream will be available on demand on antmini.com homepage starting tomorrow. And you'll also be receiving an email with a link to this presentation so that you could view it on demand as well. We have another question that came in. How did you address bias in the data sets?
Well, we trained our models over 4 million images, different anatomies, different projections, patient sizes, exposures. So a very large sample size. And then the nature of the problem itself, it's a very localized problem. Noise is a localized feature. So that allowed us to utilize a lot of information in one single image. And then it's been tested extensively, and we haven't noticed any drift in its performance.
Perfect. So guys, unfortunately, we're up against it, but I want to thank Ron Muskowski and Levon Vogelsang for joining us today. I want to thank the entire Carestream team for a fantastic presentation on SNC. Most of all, I'd like to thank everybody who joined us today for antmini.com's presentation and the latest in the webinar series. My name is Walt Schoenborn. Thank you very much, everyone. Speak to you soon.
Thank you
For having us, Walt.
Thanks, guys.